gather together to celebrate the advent of modern spiritualism and just join together with spiritualists around the world, but also to help preserve our history. So the link there is there for you to donate to the endowment fund or the maintenance fund or both, and help us make our goal. And like I said, if you're busy at work or you know someone who's not here, text them that link and encourage them to donate. We want to put more candles on that birthday cake celebrating modern spiritualism. So there are a lot of people who wanted to wish us well today, and a couple people sent us some happy birthday spiritualism wishes. And so first we are going to hear from the Church of Spiritual Growth from Burlington, Massachusetts. And then we'll hear from the Albertson Memorial Church of Spiritualism from Greenwich, Connecticut. So these are their little shout outs for us for Happy Hydesville Day. And just continue to donate as you can while we take in their special How'd You Do message.
Hi, happy Hydesville Day from the Church of Spiritual Growth in Burlington, Massachusetts. My name is Jude Mullins. I am the acting secretary of the Church of Spiritual Growth, and we are so excited to have this opportunity to lend our voices to the celebration of spiritualism and to cheer on all the work the NSAC is doing to protect and preserve Hydesville so that future spiritualists will always have a place from which to draw inspiration and reclaim their history. When we opened our doors in November of 2014, we did so with a powerful desire to create a church focused on having fun while teaching, learning, and growing with spirit. We furthermore believe that spiritual growth doesn't happen just in church. It can happen at home or at work, during walks in the woods, and in the company of friends as well as strangers, as long as you're open to receiving and integrating divine guidance. The Church of Spiritual Growth in Burlington, Mass. Strives to offer a sacred home steeped in spiritualism to everyone looking to jumpstart their journeys toward spiritual truth and have fun doing it. We foster an atmosphere of energetic enthusiasm and urge all to grow in spirit with us. And it is our sincere wish that everyone who leaves our services feels more loved, more supported, and more encouraged than when they came in. In this way, we hope to emulate our dear friends at NSAC and honor our spiritualist pioneers, like the Fox sisters from Hydesville. So please consider donating today to the Fox Cottage Donation Fund at nsac.org/support-NSAC-donation. And thank you once again from the Church of Spiritual Growth for having us here. Happy Hydesville Day, everyone.
Welcome from Albertson Memorial Church of Spiritualism, Greenwich, Connecticut. We are so happy to be able to celebrate Hydesville Day with others from around the world. Each of us on our pastoral committee has an inspired and channeled message for you today. We hope you enjoy each of these messages. I will start. Today, we honor the spiritual truths found in spiritualism. As our first principle states, we believe in infinite intelligence. This common thread, which weaves so many religions together, is at the root of spiritualism, the awareness of God's presence in our lives. We celebrate the truths of spiritualism, that we are eternal souls with the spark of divinity within us, having a physical experience here on earth, that we will eventually transition to the spirit world, where we will continue to exist as spirit, continuing our learning and progression as a soul. That with this continuity of life, the bonds of love also continue to exist. And that we can communicate between these two worlds, these realms of consciousness. As we move through this physical life, let us allow our awareness to be more fully present with God, to love more unconditionally, to experience compassion more fully, to know that we are all connected and growing into a more perfect union with God. Let us allow the walls we place around ourselves as protection to dissolve, permitting us to share our love more fully with others. We're all called upon to be a beacon of God's love, God's peace, and God's healing. Spread the awareness of the divine presence now and always without holding back. This will ignite the awareness of God's presence in ourselves as well as in others, weaving humanity into one beautiful garment of light and love. Know that you have the presence of divinity within you, that you are loved, that you are without limitations, and that your loved ones in spirit continue to surround you always. Thank you.
As the seasons change, we may become more sensitive to the vibrations and the presence of the spirit world. Due to natural forces and the increase of man's consciousness, especially after this last year. Many have taken this time to stop, to reflect, and to send love to each other, thereby raising the vibration of the earth. If you are one of the many who has lost a loved one, this is a time to really feel their presence. Allow yourself to suspend disbelief and to truly feel, hear, see, or know that they will never truly leave you. We, of course, miss their physical bodies, but the true essence of their soul is impinging on us daily. They are here. They are guiding you. They are comforting you. Let them in. Talk with them, walk with them, and live with them. The purpose of our lives is to continue on and to complete the work we came here to do. Why should you do it alone? Why should we continue without the love and support of those dear to us? Don't let the claims of this physical world deny the presence which you request. There is nothing wrong with speaking to your friend, your mother, father, spouse, or child if it gives you comfort. This is one of the biggest fallacies that our society imposes upon us. It does not harm anyone to remember, to laugh, to share with the ones that enriched our lives so much. So our message to you is, please, with all your heart, remember, hold sacred and enjoy these beautiful souls that are here right now, joining you on your journey.
5 days after the passing of my mom, I was feeling very, very sorry for myself. And as I sat there in my real sadness, there was a little bird that suddenly came and just landed on my patio. And I began to watch it. And slowly it inched forward until eventually it was right up at the glass of the patio door, and it began to tap. And as it tapped, I sensed the most amazing energy coming into my room. I felt a woman from the spirit world filling me. And I sat in this very altered state and I began to write. And I hope that this writing, which I know comes from the spirit world, not from me, I hope it sheds light on the experience of dying. I hope as well that it helps you believe in that message, life is continuous. I called it the Song of the Soul. Death scores and scars my body, fracturing the vessel that once held life. My soul, freed its limiting bonds, expands to permeate the earth, the sky, the vastness of the heavens. My reach is immense, my joy immeasurable. I'm going home at last. While rhythms of creation unfurl in vibrant beat, I sing glorious love songs, praising newfound freedoms. The pain is past, it is done. Peace and joy, now divine companions of mine. Oh, how I welcome you as we sing in unison, the song of the soul. I am free, screams my soul, as it travels beyond its earthly moorings. The markings and musings of past existence, forgotten now, in spirit's gentle caress. And just when I feel there cannot be more in the starry vastness, death unwraps before me the most precious gift, the joyous embrace of those once gone. A familiar voice, long lost to my ears, gently whispers, "Welcome home, most beloved. Welcome home at last." Oh, my greatest joy, to sit beside you again, in the seat you patiently warmed for me. Oh, the sweet delight of our reunions, souls intertwined, together again, reconnected, wrapped and fused in the warm, cozy glow of God's sacred light. I shall remember life's journey of scrapes and bruises, happiness and joy, infused with you, my child, on an elixir of faith. Yes, the scab of death, it's fallen away, revealing my newness, a change in circumstance, the true me, the eternity of myself. So please, forget my gash, my wound, my suffering. I left it all behind. Rejoice instead in my living, breathing soul, traversing the river of God's healing light. I'm swimming downstream. Tides and currents are cleansing me of burdens, trials, tribulations, the unfettered stains of my earthly life. So smile, rejoice with me, most beloved. Celebrate with me this first enactment of my altered existence. I spray droplets of God's oneness upon you to heal your doubt. Yes, I am still here. I exist. I love you still. But please understand, I'm so content in the newness of this new existence. Songs within my soul reverberate through this new expansive land. So don't rush, dear one. Be patient. Take time to experience the wonders around, the beauty of nature, its richness, its vibrance, heaven's afterglow, the great spirit's rebound. And on that day of days, when time stands still for you, leave death behind. Give it no thought. Like the scab that falls away, its work complete. Instead, marvel in the revealing of new skin, your eternal beauty. And remember, I am here guiding you home. So from now to then, I'll wait for you in the great beyond nearby, where sunset is my expansion, and sunset, God's unfailing presence, illuminating the sky. I wait patient for you, O precious child, my promise a sacred bond. For now, an empty seat warmed waits beside me, and I still sing our songs. In moonlight dreams you'll hear me, my cadence sweet and strong. The song of the soul is ours forever. No death, just movement on.
Today and every day is one of joy and hope for all mankind. As one looks at the meaning of celebrating a birth, on this plane or any other, birth brings to the family and to the world the knowledge that life is a continuous cycle. We are reminded we all have opportunities for growth, for harmony, and for living our own greatest and highest best. As we celebrate a birth and we celebrate light, two of mankind's greatest strengths are united. For you are light. Every time you grow in your understanding, every time you grow in daily living with Spirit, you are born in a brighter light of energy. Behold such beauty in each other. Behold such beauty in yourself. We thank you for listening to our inspired and channeled messages, and we wish you a wonderful day. Thank you.
Wow, that was great. So, thank you for your shout out and your inspired messages. That was fabulous. That's what spiritualism is about. And I hope all of you are feeling inspired to donate. We haven't had too many ding ding dings yet in this hour, so hopefully we'll get a few more. I want to present to you another one of our Spiritualist historical sidebar interviews with the very vivacious, amazing, well, let me just let you meet Reverend Maurice Coverson. Here she is.
Well, my name is Maurice Coverson. I'm pastor of the Church of the Spirit in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, we would like to know what brought you to spiritualism and how long you've been a spiritualist.
I have been a spiritualist, and I looked at it today, 40 years. And what brought me to spiritualism, I came to Chicago, and I had a sorority sister who was attending Tucker Smith Memorial Spiritualist Church with Louise Washington, and she invited me there in 71. And I've been in spiritualism ever since.
So can you tell us about your contribution to spiritualism?
I think my contribution to spiritualism involved creating a platform for African Americans to be involved, and being one of the first African Americans since 1921 to be on the national board, and then working to make sure that the National Spiritual Association divested its money out of apartheid. And then to my greatest contribution, which I'm very proud of, is that I became pastor of the Church of the Spirit, and we had 7 members. And now, even today, during the pandemic, we are having 50 and 60 individuals attending our Saturday evening service.
Wow, that's tremendous. So we're celebrating Hydesville Day. What does Hydesville Day represent to you?
Modern spiritualism, the movement of spiritualism, they're helping people understand there's no death, there's no dying, and that there's a connection with the spirit, that we have the connection, and that we're just only we are spirits in human flesh, and helping people to understand that their spirit friends move on, but they still their spirit's still alive. So Hydesville is just a way of keeping alive helping people alive this movement.
Do you have any favorite spiritual experiences that you'd like to share with us?
My favorite spiritualist experience was when Sharon Snowman came to Chicago and ordained me as pastor, and she also made me pastor of the Church of the Spirit and ordained me. So that's my favorite time, is that my great movement in spiritualism, and it helped me to gain that actual understanding that maybe that's the wrong word for it, but helped me understand that link between my movement into that pastorship and this whole spiritual movement.
So how does spirit communication proven through mediumship enhance your life?
Well, it enhanced my life because it helps me to help people to understand there is no death, there is no dead, and there's no dying. And when I help people to understand, and I bring through their loved ones, I'm so happy. And when they know that their loved ones are there, and I actually can give them that information that is so accurate, and they can know that their loved ones are there, and there's no question. It really enhanced my life. And then it enhances my life because as I walk through this journey of life, I too have my ups and downs, and I can talk to my loved ones, and I can know my son is there with me and my loved ones is there guiding me and helping me on this earth plane. So this whole phenomena of knowing that we can talk to those who are in the other world and that they are there for us and that we can also share that. And it helped people to feel better about life and to just feel good sometimes when they're feeling bad. And, you know, when I have someone who's thinking about committing suicide or thinking about how awful life is, and I can say that their loved ones are there and guiding them and helping them, and they feel good about that. That's a treasure for me, and it enhanced my life. So that phenomena enhanced my life by helping others, also enhanced my life by my loved ones helping me.
In the year 2021, which we're now celebrating 173 years of modern spiritualism. What are some of the things that we can do to enhance spiritualism today?
We can reach out and be more inclusive and try to increase the diversity of in this religion, and diversity, I mean, in all levels, and in levels of minorities and levels of LGBTQ. I always get that kind of wrong though when I'm saying it, but you know, know that all of us are one, and that we are, and that we really try to let the world know that we believe that, and not sit with our heads, you know, just in a corner and not let people know that we're all one. And so I think that that's what we need to do to be much more inclusive. And we need to focus on our children and focus on bringing more children into this religion and helping children to understand their gifts, because there are a lot of children who also are experiencing the phenomena early. And so we need to look at how we can develop those lyceums to help kids. So we need to sort of revamp some of our ways of teaching and how do we be inclusive. We need to be look at how inclusiveness can help us push this religion to another level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you are just a treasure. We are just so happy to have spent this time with you. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to share with us?
Well, I think this is good, and I think as we reach out to people to let them know about Highsfield and the importance of Highsfield, because I know there's been a lot of work on Highsfield. I can remember when it started, and there's been a lot of work. But I think that as we look there, that Highsfield is not an entity of its own. It's a part of this whole big religion, and this religion is a religion of inclusiveness, and it should be as we look at Highsfield, a part of this religion, that we need to look at how we can help Highsfield become a beacon in the world, and how we can become, as a religion, a beacon in the world, and the light of Highsfield not be a light by itself, but a light within this spiritualist organization, this National Spiritualist Association organization.
That's
Beautiful.
it, all about carrying the light of spiritualism forward.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And embracing all people, because we are all one.
Yes, we're all one.
I love that message.
So, thank you, Reverend Maurice Coverson, for sharing that time with us. I just want to remind you, if you have tickets to the Victorian Seance, it is not on this link. However, if you don't have tickets, don't go away, because we have lots more to share with you. We will be on this link all the way through. If you are going to hop off and go to the seance, then please come back to this link at 9:15 for our closing ceremony, where our address will be given by the NSAC President, Christine Krothatis.
March 31st marks the date when in 1848 events took place that began a new communing with woman and man. Hydesville, New York, in a cottage small, where two fox sisters got the call. No one around, not a sound. Then came the knocks and the raps most profound. It surprised them, yes, we know. From the start, how did it grow? Helping each to understand. Communication is not new. It had its start when the world was new. But we should know in modern times, these two sisters receive the signs. Natives in lands far away, they could tell what God would say. They had their ways to relate. When God had something He wished to state, sages past did appear, sharing God's love that was most dear, telling us of our great plan. March 31st marks the date when in 1848 events took place that began a new communing with woman and man.
Follow me to Hydesville, where beginnings never end. Not when we pay tribute to the place it all began. Spirit manifested with those legendary knocks. Frightful things to witness for our Kate and Maggie Fox. Kate and Maggie's struggles put a strain upon their youth. Still the spirits told them time to demonstrate the truth. We don't have to fear death, for our spirit will live on. This is our foundation and the music for our song. Follow me to Hydesville, and we'll give a silent prayer, showing that we're grateful for the things that started there. Knowing that we don't die helps to show us how to live. Shining love and healing, and the power to forgive.
March 31st, 1848, brought to the world the knowledge of a place that is real, a place that's very close, a place that's just beyond this physical plane. Our friends and our family that have gone on before, just wait for the moment when we hear their call. The call that says we love you, call that says we care. We're here to give guidance. We're here 'cause we care. This place is called the Summerland by other spirit world. The house that we live in, we start building it from here. With our thoughts and our deeds, our actions, we decide how strong the foundation of the house August 31st, 1848. A place that is real, a place that's very close, a place that's just beyond this physical plane.
Okay, hopefully everybody who was supposed to jump off to get to the seance has gotten there safely. We helped a couple of people, so that's exciting. And we want to report we've had a $50 donation come in for the Preservation Fund and another $30 donation for the Preservation Fund. So every little bit helps. I know we're going to get to those 48 candles, $48,000 with the 48 candles on our cake. So we'll just keep sending out to Spirit, to people that maybe aren't here, to continue to donate and preserve our history. So along with our history, we're going to continue with our Spiritualist historical sidebar interviews. And so may I present Reverend Lilia Cutler.
Yes, I am the Reverend Lydia Estelle Cutler, and I am a certified medium and a national spiritualist teacher. And I live in Portsmouth, Virginia.
We are so happy to have you here today. We just want to ask you a couple of questions, starting with what brought you to spiritualism and how long have you been a spiritualist?
I'm a singer, and I was singing in a Baptist church, and the organist came over to me and says, "Do you want to go to a real church?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it." And in 1969, October of 1969, we went to the Spiritualist church, and I've been there ever since. So that's how long I've been in spiritualism. Now, as far as how long I have been credentialed or ordained, I was ordained the first time by Universal Spiritualist Association in 1985, and then I was reordained by Joseph Merrill in Lilydale in 1988. And I have totally enjoyed my association with spiritualism. I am a teacher by personality, and I've been a teacher most of my life. I'm also a retired bank officer. So I worked for the bank for 37 years, and I have been teaching probably for 50. Because I'm a teacher, when I got to the Spiritualist church, I found out that, the hub that drives the wheel of spiritualism are home circles. So I started a home circle at my home, and we met every Friday at my house, and regardless of whether I was there or not, but we met every Friday at my house, and my neighbors got a big kick out of it. They used to say, you're never home, but when you're home, there's all these cars that follow you. And then when you go in the house, the lights go out. And so they had a good laugh about watching what I did with my home circles. But because of the home circles, I was responsible for training a lot of our future workers in our church. And I would say that probably 6 out of 7 went on to become workers in the church that attended that circle. And I have taught classes, and because I'm a teacher, I have taught classes for spiritualism, and I have a list of about 12 workshops that I teach across the country. And it all has to do with the basis of spiritualism and what spiritualism can do for your life. When we find spiritualism and that philosophy, when I went to that spiritualist church and I walked in and I read those principles, I was at home. It was wonderful. And I get emotional about that. And we find that when you find something that feels so right, you have to follow along with it. And because of the teaching and the education and that sort of thing, I just wanted to know more about it. And so I sat in classes with all the ministers that came to our church. I went to classes in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania for the second Universal Spiritualist Association, and I just felt like that I was learning something that was life itself. It's every breath you take. It's the life that you live. And so that's what spiritualism means to me, is that it's a constant. It isn't something where you just go to a building on a Sunday morning. No, No, you live it every 24/7. And I have a sign in my office, and it's right over there. And it says, if you believe it, you live it. And I truly, truly believe that if you believe something and you believe that Spirit is communicating with you, then you certainly live with that communication. And knowing that God is in everything, it's infinite intelligence. It's not just this man sitting on a throne somewhere. You know, I grew up in a Christian church, and it's like, I was so glad to get over that. You know, I would go to bed at night as a child and think, was I good today, or do I get smacked, or do I get patted, you know? And to get rid of that fear, to get rid of that, and to know that the God energy is in everything, it was just such a wonderful, wonderful discovery for me. And I lived it, and I breathed it, and I still do. And it's been 50 some years now. As you probably know, my contribution of spiritualism is, I've also, with my church, I have been their treasurer, I have been their president, I've been their secretary, I've been their minister for 40 plus years. And with the National Spiritualist Association of Churches, I was on their national board for 19 years, 10 years as their treasurer and 9 years as their president. So I'm a past president in that. And it's just something that when you get hold of it, you want to climb that ladder. You want to know more. You want to be a part of it. And it brings you in. It kind of envelops you.
Do you have any favorite spiritual experiences that you'd like to tell us that maybe you haven't told us about yet?
I have one particular experience that it was when I first started going to the church, and the Reverend Everett Brown was as our minister he used to come for a month and serve the church twice a year. And he was there, and my friend Fred and I were still working the Baptist church at this point in time, and we came running in late in the service and sitting on the back row. And then Reed Brown did his messages at that point in time in the indirect method. And so he was calling out these names and to see if anyone could take it. And when he called my father's name and my brother's pet name, I knew it was for me. And so I answered, and that message was the most instrumental thing as far as keeping me in finding out more about this wonderful religion. So that was the first one that made so much sense to me. I've had some since, but that one still stands out in my mind. So I'll share it with you.
How does spirit communication, proven through mediumship, enhance your life?
With every breath you take and every thought you think. Because the fact that I have friends in my church, and they'll come in and they'll say, well, I did this because Spirit told me to. And, you know, sometimes I think that what they're listening to is not really Spirit, but it could be. They listen to their inner voice as well as listening to the Spirit communication. But when I think about that, yes, I live alone. And I walk into my house and I say, hello, ghosties, because it's just my little cute way of saying, thank you for being here. And so the fact that they communicate with me on every level, with everything that, you know, whether it's going into a dream state or whether it's walking around fully awake, it doesn't matter. You listen to what they have to say. You know, there's been times I've traveled all over this country, and I drive if it's east of the Mississippi. I only fly if it's west. And when I'm driving on long distances or something, and I think, well, I'm supposed to turn off at this next second, and they say, no, don't do that. Because it's a feeling. It's not something that may be verbalized exactly the way you would hear it, but it's a feeling, and you just follow it. It's like your body follows what it's instructed to do. And so there's times when I've missed accidents, I've missed all sorts of things, and if I had stayed awake, I'd have missed an accident. But anyway, I was traveling home from Salem, Massachusetts, and it's a 16-hour drive, and I was about on hour number 15, and I drove into a ditch. So that's not a smart thing to do. Know what your limits are. And Spirit may tell you, stop, rest, close your eyes, get a little soft drink, do something of that kind. And they will encourage you. And it's just something that comes into your mind. It's a thought that passes through. Pay attention. And as we pay attention to what we receive in that way, we live a much better life.
Well, in 2021, we're celebrating 173 years of modern spiritualism. This is the big question. Where do you see spiritualism 173 years from now?
I would like to say that the entire world was communicating with Spirit, but I don't think that's going to happen. We have too many people who are preaching and teaching the fear concepts of religion. And I think we're still, in 173 years, we're probably still going to have this wonderful opportunity to teach people what can be used from Spirit and how to use it. And I just think it's going to be a continuous uphill climb for us. I don't think it's going to be real easy. I think it's going to be something that you have to make a commitment for. And the fact that we teach Maurice Pratt study course, I'm an examiner for them, and I feel like that the fact that we keep teaching people and they get into it and they find out there is something there, the more they're going to accept it. Now, if you knew exactly how many people believed in spirit communication at this point in time, I think you would find that it's multiple times what people know about, because there is an awful lot of people walking around that have had experience with a loved one come to them in the night or in the dreams, or when a young person has been killed in battle and they appear to their parents, these things, but they're not adopting spiritualism with that. They're just saying it was a unique experience for them. I think that these unique experiences are going to keep happening. And I think that people are going to keep understanding what's happening. But we have to be very religious and very committed to teaching them what's really going on with the philosophy of spiritualism. It will be progress, but I don't know if it's going to be the progress we really like to see.
Well, I appreciate your insight, and we'll be looking in 173 years from the Summerland to see what has happened. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Is there anything else you want to add to close?
I just feel like there's a little quote that I use that says, when someone walks up to me and says, what is spiritualism to you? And I just tell them it's every breath I take and it's the life I live. And that's my overall thought about what I found. It's a 24/7 belief system. Thank you.
Wasn't that great? I just think it's just been so great to get to sit down with these people that, you've seen their name in the TNS Summit, and now you're finding out a little bit more about them. So I think we finally got everybody their wings, and they're now in the seance that has tickets. So I'm sorry we had to keep interrupting you there. We are now going to continue with our spiritualist historical interview with Reverend Bradley Goslin. So let's welcome him to the floor.
For our audience, could you please introduce yourself? And and everyone else, to everyone else.
I am the Reverend Bradley Goslin. I'm a National Spiritualist teacher, commissioned healer. I've been a spiritualist for approximately 30 years. I started in the First Spiritual Church of Salem. I served on the church board in various offices, including president. I served on the church pastoral committee, and then I was elected to the NSAC Board of Trustees in 2004. I served as trustee, 2 years as vice president, 3 years as president, and I left office in 2015. I've been serving churches and camps throughout the country over the years, and I've written articles for the Summit. I've had interviews on radio, and I years ago did a TV segment for a local cable company, and I think that's about it. That's all I've done.
Just that. That's quite a bit.
That's all? Hey, well, tell us what brought you to spiritualism.
Well, my wife was with the Spiritualist Church and as a member for probably close to 40 years, or maybe longer. And a very good friend of hers was born a spiritualist, and took my wife Betty to many functions, and eventually she joined the church and became a member, and eventually she became ordained and National Spiritualist teacher, a certified medium, and she wrote articles for the Spotlight, and she also served on the Salem Church Board, was delegate for many, many years. I think we went to something like 19 straight conventions from 1998 to 2015. And she also taught the Salem Church membership class. So that's how I got in. Eventually, she was in for many years, and I was active in politics, and she would go to a spiritualist church function, and I'd go to a political rally. And in 1990, I had a near-death experience, and was fortunate to survive with a lot of prayers and help from the Salem Church and the Salem Church healers coming to my house and to a hospital. And so I survived. At one point, the doctor called up Elizabeth and told her I had 2 weeks to live if a new protocol didn't help. And as you can see, the doctors were wrong. And I had that near-death experience. I sometimes tell the story, but we may not have time for it here. So anyways, after that episode, a new church season was opening, and I went in, I showered, put on my suit, and I told Elizabeth, I'm going to church with you today. And that started my journey. I went to the service, and I started going to service with her every week. And then I joined the church non-members class. Then I became a member, and I joined the members class. And every step of the way, I thought I was doing something, and Spirit would kind of put a little hand in the small of my back and tell me to take another step. And I just continued the journey, and it's been a wonderful and enlightening journey for me over these many years. I think I've helped many people. Many people have helped me. and Spirit has guided me the whole way. How's that for an introduction? You might want to shorten it.
Oh, no, we love it. We love it. That's a beautiful thing to be brought into spiritualism, not just about your wife, but the little near-death experience that you survived. So.
Well, it's interesting because, as I said, a friend of ours was a spiritualist, and in fact, her mother was the pastor of the Salem Church, and my teacher and Elizabeth's teacher, and the friend's father passed away in the mid-70s, and I went to the church to pay my respects. And what was interesting was that I left the church, and it was funny. In later years, when we were touring Canada, we were in the St. Joseph's Observatory and the Hall of Crutches that they have up there, and we visited that. And in later years, I could always see that First Spiritual Church of Salem, and I could always see the St. Joseph's Observatory, but I had difficulty remembering the church that I grew up with as a Catholic, the church that I'd spent, going every day to Mass in the morning before school. And I would have to stop and think, what did that church look like? But yet I never had to stop and think, what did that Spiritualist church in Salem look like? It was burned into my mind, along with, as I said, the St. Joseph's Observatory up in Canada. So, as I say, I just continued the journey, and whenever Spirit asked, I was always willing. Whatever I could do, whenever I could do it. And it's become a journey of love for me, and the love that I've felt from my spirit teachers and guides in the spirit world. I embrace it, I enjoy it, and I revel in it because it has just been an amazing experience for me. And maybe as a sidelight, when I was a youngster growing up, as I said, I was raised as a Roman Catholic, and I used to go to Mass every morning before school. I'd go to church for the 7 o'clock Mass, and then I'd go out and get on the bus to go to school. And my ambition was to be a priest. And life took some interesting turns and everything, and I met Elizabeth, and that changed my mind. And yet, all those years later, I became a spiritualist minister. So apparently the calling from my youth was there. I just didn't know where it was going to take me.
Yeah, so tell us more about that contribution to spiritualism.
Oh, I think that, what's interesting and the experiences that I've had, when Elizabeth and I were told that we were going to do a service together, and it was our first public service, I said, gee, that's okay. So I was sitting down trying to think of what to give for a talk, and Elizabeth do the messages. And all of a sudden, I realized the day we were scheduled for was November 14th, 1999, which was the 150th anniversary of the first public demonstration of mediumship by the Fox sisters, which took place in Corinthian Hall in Rochester, New York. So it was kind of interesting the way that Spirit evolved that for me. It was just not just a service. It's a Sunday. It was a special Sunday, and it had special meaning to me. And when I think back, it always reminds me of the sacrifice that those Fox sisters and all of our forerunners and those who built this beautiful religion the sacrifices that they made. And it's taught me that about commitment and dedication. And I realize the commitment and the dedication that those from the world of spirit bring to us with their love, and what they bring to us and that we can pass on. And it just has become that type of a dedication for me. And as I say, when I make these different decisions, it seems that whenever we're called to do something, it always seems to be on a special occasion. I'll tell you a very, I think, enlightening story of what happened. After I was ordained, I was asked to serve as a speaker Friday night at convention. And this is what had always been, they always used to, and when I was president, we used to pick a newly ordained minister to do the Friday night service. So I had written an article for the summit on natural law because I had talked to Reverend Barbara Thurman, the president at that time, about natural law, and she asked me to write this article. So I did. So when it came time to do this talk at the convention, I said, okay, I will do it on natural law. Well, as I was getting ready and I was writing it, all of a sudden, it dawned on me that the night I was to speak was I believe it was the 30th anniversary. It was the 20th, 30th anniversary of the first time that Reverend Joe Merrill had been elected president of the NSAC. And I had met Joe back in the mid-90s when he came to Salem to help us celebrate our 100th anniversary. And Joe kind of became a role model for me. So when it was time to speak, and I got up and I gave my talk on natural law, but I shortened it. And I said, this is the 20th anniversary of the first election of Reverend Joseph Merrill as president of the NSAC. And in his honor, I would like to read the poem, The Law. Well, anybody that knows Joe knows that every service he ever gave, or at least every service I ever saw, he would always recite the law as part of it. So I recited the law. I sat down and the mediums got up to work. And then when the service was over, Martin Pena from California was one of the mediums. And he came over and he said, Brad, I got to tell you, I saw Joe Merrill standing behind you when you talked. And I said, gee, that was nice. I stepped off the stage and Reverend Sharon Snowman came over to me. And she said, Brad, I got to tell you, I was sitting with Reverend Sandy Fort Miller and another minister, and all three of us saw Joe Merrill, Joe Sachs, and this woman standing behind you as you talked. But we don't know who the woman was. So I said, gee, that made me feel good. Well, I got home from convention and Tuesday morning my phone rang. And it was Sharon Snowman. And she said, Brad, I got to tell you, I found out who that woman was. It was Evelyn Muse. She said I got a call from her daughter. Evelyn passed away Friday morning. And the last thing she said to her daughter was, I have to go to convention. Joe needs me. That is the confirmation of spirit that really gets to my soul. To have that kind of confirmation, it just, it brings chills every time I tell the story. Is there another question?
It brings chills to me just hearing it. So one of the questions we like to ask everybody is, how does spirit communication proven through mediumship enhance your life?
Oh, wow. Well, it's so truth what they say, that spiritualism is not just a religion, it's a way of life. And since the earliest days, it's that I started the church and started sitting in class as I became acquainted with our spirit guides. And I've been fortunate with some of my guides that I've been able to sit and go on meditation and talk to them and have them talk to me and have me and teach me. And so it's just a way of life. And I just, I used to say I used to meditate 4 times a day. I used to get up before I go to work and I'd walk 3 miles in the morning and I'd meditate the whole way. And then I'd find time on lunch to get a short meditation. And then at night, Elizabeth and I would sit in meditation every night to send healing and ask spirit for guidance. And my spirit teacher would come through and he would give us messages. He would tell us things. And Elizabeth used to write cards to sell at convention with spirit sayings on them that came from my teacher on that. So as I said, spirit has been a guide for me the whole way.
Well, I'm quite interested, and I believe Spirit's telling us that you do need to share the experience that you had as a near-death experience. And that might have been, I'm not sure if that was your awakening to spiritualism or not, but I want to hear more about that.
You want to hear more about that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. In about 1987, I was diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And the doctor said, well, he says, 3 things will happen. He says, nothing. He says, you may need to get some treatment or you'll die. So I says, okay. So Elizabeth and I talked about it and we said, well, we'll do what we can. So it was in 1989, I had a surgery for a sigmoid resection for cancer. And after that, I never quite got my strength back. And so in early 1990, my white cell count went off the roof. And the doctor gave me some pills, which were chemotherapy. So I started taking them, and I would get sick. And I would go to the hospital, and I'd be in for a couple of days, and then I'd be back. And this went on probably to June. Excuse me, let me get a drink of water. So then at the end of June, I had a real bad episode, and I went to the hospital, and doctor called up Elizabeth and told her that we've run out of options, but there's a new protocol at one of the Boston teaching hospitals we'd like to try. And if this doesn't work, Brad's got 2 weeks to live. So anyways, that night, Elizabeth came with her friend Susie, and they were on their way to church class. So they come in and visited me, and then they went to class. And I know they were sending healing prayers and everything. So I'm sitting there, I'm laying there in bed, and a nurse come in, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock, and took my temperature and said, you got a fever, I'm going to give you a couple of Tylenol. So she came back a couple hours later and said, you still got the fever, I'm going to give you some more Tylenol. So then she came back about 10 o'clock and said, your fever's still not going down. I called the doctor, so we're going to put you on what we call a cold blanket. And if you don't know, a cold blanket is just a spinal mattress with coils in it, and they pump water at 50 degrees through it. So I laid on that for an hour and a half, and I finally pushed a button and I said to the nurse, I can't take this anymore. So she says, oh, well, your temperature's down, that's fine. So she took me off, and I was laying there trying to watch TV, and all of a sudden I buzzed and I says, I got the chills, I'm cold, can I have a blanket? She says, oh no, your fever's back on the cold blanket. So I was on there for another hour and a half. And finally, she came, took it off. And I realized for the first time, I would admit to myself that I was really sick. And so I knew that the problem was with my blood. And I know I had discussed with healers about different methods of visualization and everything. And so I was thinking of that. And so as I was going to sleep, or trying to go to sleep, I said, well, God, problem is my blood, so please clean it. And I went to sleep. And while I was sleeping, I saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And if you remember the movie where the dwarfs come out of the hut and they have tools on their shoulders and they're singing hi ho, it's off to work we go. Well, that's what I saw. Only instead of having shovels and picks, they all had push brooms. And they crossed over the bridge. And when they got to the other side of the bridge, they went down this path into the water. And they stood in the water with their push brooms, scrubbing the water on the rocks. And that's how I slept. I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning. And there was a vision of Snow White or someone else. And she had her arms stretched out towards me. I was laying flat on my back with my arms stretched out to reach her. We never made connection. She vanished. I put my arms down. And I had passed the crisis. I moved on. And that was how I had my near-death experience. And I always like to thank Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for getting me through a tough night. That I had gone from weight before I was sick of about 225 pounds down to 165 pounds. And it took me almost over a year to regain my strength and build myself up where I could go back to work. And as I say, through that period, the spiritualist helped me. Those in the spirit world and those on the earth plane. A lot of love, a lot of guidance, a lot of healing. And as I always tell everybody, when I tell the story, you have to remember, it's very important to get the proper medical care. Can't depend on healing alone. It'll do it, but you do not want to neglect the medical professional. How's that for a story?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Do you want to speak to us a little bit about your work as a healer and why you were drawn to healing? I guess I can guess why you might be drawn to healing.
That's probably why I was drawn to healing, and I've had some wonderful experiences. In 1999, Elizabeth and I joined the ISF, and we went to many of their conferences, many of their weekends in the United States, in England, in Austria, and in Canada. And I worked with some of the healers and learned from some of the healers there. And I learned from the healers in the NSAC. One of the members of the First Baptist Church of Salem before I joined was a gentleman by the name of Bob Miller, who was a well-known healer and taught all across the country. And in fact, when I was on the NSAC board and I was grading papers for somebody out there who took a healing course, was taking the healing exam. They mentioned that they had studied under Bob Miller out there in California. So I talked to Bob a lot, and Bob helped me a lot. And one of the things Bob Miller did back in the 1970s was he got through the Massachusetts state legislature a bill that would allow spiritualist healers to go into the operating rooms and into the hospitals. And the first one to do that was a healer from the First Spiritual Church Salem by the name of David Leclaire. His mother, the Reverend Gladys Wiesencroft, was pastor of the years of Salem for years. And so David went in on a few occasions. And about 10 years ago, one of the members was going to have a heart surgery. And she told the doctor she wanted David in the operating room. And the doctor was not thrilled. But he said, well, if that's what you want, we'll do it. So David went at the time. He scrubbed up and put on the gown and the cap and gloves and everything like everybody else. And when he walked through the door, the doctor was standing there and he looked at him. Now, David is 6'3" and goes for about 210 pounds. He's a big guy. And the doctor looked up and he said, exactly what are you going to do? And David looked at me and says, I'm going to stand in that corner over there. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to touch her. I'm not going to touch anybody. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm going to pray. After the surgery, the surgeon is washing up and he looked at David and he says, I want to tell you, that was one of the best heart surgeries I've ever done. And David said, thank you. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, David got a call. The doctor says, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, keep it up, because she is making a miraculous recovery. So that's kind of my introduction to healing and what has laid out a path for me. I've taught healing classes in many churches around, and I always remind the healer, it's not about you. It's about the patient and it's about spirit. Get yourself out of the way and let them do the work. And remember, always thank spirit for what they allow you to do. I don't know what much else I could add, but.
Well, I've got one more question, at least. Come March 31st, we're going to be celebrating Hydesville Day. And so I just wanted to know, what does that day represent for you?
Well, surprisingly enough, in fact, I was just writing a service for a church I'm going to be serving in a couple of weeks. And as I was working on it and talking about it, it dawned on me that it was not only the advent of modern spiritualism, what those two little girls did, but beyond all that is the fact that those two little girls on that day answered the question that had confounded mankind since the beginning of time. If you go back and read the ancient philosophers, they all wrote about, is there an afterlife? On March 31st, those two girls gave a resounding, yes, there is an afterlife. Yes, there is a spirit world. And yes, we can communicate with those in the world of spirit. And that's what March 31st means to me. The answer to the age-old question, is there an afterlife? Yes.
Well, we want to know your opinion of some things that we can do to enhance spiritualism today.
Wow. I always go back to my earliest teachings that we're religion of, I forgot the phrase now. We don't go out and knock on doors. We don't go out on street corners. But I think that what we've got to do is, or try to do, is be more active with the different religions and the different councils of churches that they have in the communities. I remember years ago, Reverend Wozencroft was active in the Salem church, in the city of Salem, and she used to go to different religious church services and serve, and she used to invite different ministers from different religions in to serve. And I think that, that's probably part of it. It's a difficult sell, and I'm not sure exactly how we cross that bridge. I think that what we should look forward to is probably what Arthur Finley wrote in one of his books, is that sometime there will be no need for religions. It'll just be the brotherhood of man. And that's what spiritualism is the brotherhood of man. In 173 years, we'll come back from the world of spirit to help them celebrate the day. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that was exciting, and we're excited that we have all these wonderful people as part of our organization. I think that we have Joanne back from her journey from Hydesville. So Joanne, are you up for telling us a little bit more about the pavers and the park and all those wonderful things?
Sure, I can do that for you. It's nice to be in a dry, nice warm house again. It was a little chilly out in Hydesville. They're actually calling for, not going to say the word snow tomorrow. So we're glad to be back in the warm house.
Snow is not an April Fool's joke, huh?
It is not. I wish it was.
Okay.
So this whole event is about fundraising. And there are just so many different ways to fundraise for the Fox property. We have, if you want to leave a memory, a lasting memory for loved ones, you could purchase a brick paver, an engraved paver. There's all different types and a couple different sizes. You go on the NSAC.org website and look that up and purchase a brick and have it in memory of whomever you wish, and we could take care of that for you. Then we also have the main reason for this fundraiser is the preservation fund for the property, and that's to help us take care of over 2 acres of land. We've owned the property since the 1980s. We've built the building around the foundation. It takes money just for the upkeep. Last year, during COVID, they installed, I don't even know how many feet of paved walkway throughout the property, the meandering road. So all of that needs to be maintained. But in addition, we have somebody who has helped us revitalize our memorial endowment fund for the Hydesville property. And they are willing to match dollar for dollar from today until December 31st, up to $18,480. So please, even after today, your taxes come in, you got a little extra money in your pocket a week from now, 2 weeks from now, please think about donating to the fund. Endowment funds are different than the preservation fund. Preservation fund is for cash that we need now to take care of the lawns, take care of the maintenance things, the painting, the stain, pay the electric bill, those types of things. The unique thing about the endowment fund is it sits in an investment bank where it makes a higher rate of interest, and then we can only utilize a percentage of that interest. So that means it grows year after year. So after a few years, hopefully, the amount of money in there, the interest dividend that we could use, will actually be the capital we can take off the top and use to maintain the property. And it'll be there forever. So spiritualists all across the country, all over the world, 173 years from now, have a place to go and visit and feel the energy and the vibration that comes off of that property is miraculous. So take some time today and make a donation.
Okay, I think Ellen put the donation link in the chat box, and I was mentioning that pavers range from $50 to $100 to $250 to $500 to $1,000. It's just however much you want to donate. And the nice thing is that I really think it's great that you can dedicate a paver and then go visit the park and go, wow, I'm a piece of this history, you know, that we're building this park. So exactly 173 years from now, we'll come back in spirit and we'll go, there's my paver. Because we'll know that not only did we get the pavers for the regular maintenance fund, but we'll have the endowment fund to know that those pavers are going to be maintained. So when we come back in spirit to visit, everything will look immaculate. So, and you know, Joanne, guys, is the co-chair of the Hydesville Committee. So she has been working tirelessly with Reverend Cozy Allen to make this, which was a dream, a reality, you know, to turn this land that was all grown over. And you saw the video. In fact, we're going to show that video again later for people who missed it, because it really is miraculous what happened there. So thank you so much, Joanne. We're going to move into our final interview, our spiritualist historical sidebar interview, we call it. And this interview is with the Reverend Marilyn Autry. And I've known Marilyn for years. She just knows so many facts and history things. We could probably sit with her all day. But let me just let her speak for herself. So may I introduce the Reverend Marilyn Autry.
Well, as you all know now, I'm Marilyn Jayarti, and I have been a part of Spiritualism for many years alongside of my government employment. And I have been researching intensely, rewriting a lot of the errors that have been repeated over the years. And it was a big job, and I guess nobody wanted to do it, but that was my fun. So I have succeeded in getting information that we haven't had before, and I'm sure everybody would be interested in.
Well, tell us what brought you to spiritualism, and how long have you been a spiritualist?
I just graduated from high school, and I worked for a dentist as I was going into dental hygiene as a profession. And he gave me the gift of a month visit with my sister in Florida. And so I arrived all excited about being in Florida. And she said, I have a big surprise for you. And I said, what's that? She said, I'm going to take you to Cassadaga. I said, where is that? She said, oh, it's just a few miles away. Now, she had a friend named Nettie, and she had a son who had started giving messages at 3 years old. And my sister wanted me to meet him. So we went to Cassadaga, and lucky that I was, Meg Ravesward was the medium. And she said, I'd like to speak to that young lady in the last row. Well, I didn't know what they were doing. So I just sat there. And she said again, I want to speak to the lady in the last row. And I just sat there. And finally, she pointed at me and she said, explicit. Don't you understand English? And I said, oh, are you talking to me? And she said, yes, I am. And she said, I have your mother and father here. Your father was a preacher. Your mother was a lovely spirit. And they're with you because they knew you were coming today, and they're happy about what I have to tell you. And that is that you're going to be standing on this platform doing what I'm doing. Do you understand? And I said, no. She said it 3 times. And all 3 times I said, no. And she said, you don't understand English? And I said, yes, I do. She said, you are a natural medium, and you will be doing mediumship all over the place, just like I did. So I left Florida after a month, thinking about this, and thought, this is ridiculous. My father's a Baptist minister. I can't tell him about spiritualism. So I said nothing. And years passed, and finally, I decided to listen to Robert, and he would teach me mediumship. And he did, via dreams and the telephone. And that got me really interested. And I started taking classes in Casadega. And next thing you know, I was the medium on the platform. So that was my beginning into spiritualism. Then I took the Maurice course. My goal was to be a teacher. I always liked teaching. And after I got my NST, Reverend Joseph Merrill said, now you're going to study for ordination. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. He said, yes, you do. And you're also going to get certified as a medium. And you're also going to do whatever else I suggest. And I took that as, shut your mouth, Marilyn, just do what he says. And so I entered into spiritualism. And I joined the church in Casadega in 1965. And from there, I kept going onward and upward. And I'm still at it.
Can you tell us more about some of the contributions that you've had to spiritualism?
That really is a big one. I often think about all the things I did and wondered how I did them. But once I got my certifications, I began teaching spiritualism. And not only did I do classwork, but I also drafted about, I can't say, over 35 pamphlets, booklets, and workshops on spiritualism to share with the students. In the 70s, I was transferred to Washington, and at that time I became the pastor of the Church of the Spirit in Georgetown. And I did that until one day when I went to work, my boss threw the newspaper in front of me and he said, what's this? And I said, what's what? And he pointed to Marilyn Jayarti, pastor of the Church of the Spirit. And I said, well, that's just something I do on the side. It won't interfere with your work. And then in these years, I have authored 10 books on spiritualism. And I have 4 new pamphlets on spiritualism, where I decided to write up for students how to do a home circle, how to do spirit photography, how to do voice phenomena, and those current things. So that was a big effort, but that's still going on. And then one of my biggest, I think, important things that I did was I was co-author of the modern course of the course of modern spiritualism by the MPI. And a lady from the Lydia and I worked 3 years researching and preparing the course. Another thing that I'm really proud of, in the year 2000, I wanted to recarve the tombstone on the Fox grave because it was not readable. And although I brought it before the folks that could make that decision, they didn't want to do it. So I just lingered on, and then finally, in 2017, I sent out notices all around the world for people who would like to contribute to redoing the tombstone and fixing the graves of Fox sisters. And we did that, and you can look on Facebook and go to the Fox Cottage, Fox Sisters, and you can see the new tombstone. It's beautiful, and you can read it, and it has the correct information on it. So I really put that as one of my biggest achievements because that was just very important to me. Other than that, I spent summers in Lilia working up in the National Office, organizing the records upstairs. There's a library. There was a library up there. Part of it is now moved downstairs. There also was a room of the archives. To find something was another question. So I took that upon myself to get that straightened out. And I guess I took about 6 years doing it, and it still isn't finished. So that was a few of the things I did, and I think that's enough, really. Or I can take all the time just saying what I did.
So what does Hydesville Day represent to you?
Hydesville Day represents to me the realization, number one, you can do anything you want to do. Sometimes even the things you don't want to do. And we will open the doorway to communication with the peddler. And I think that was a big adventure for them. It wasn't easy, particularly once their older sister started taking them around the country, doing demonstrations. And they spent an awful lot of time at work, and they never really did have a childhood. The other thing Hydesville means to me is the proof of the continuity of life is there now, where people from anywhere can come, walk the park, go into the building and see exactly where the peddler lay. And it's a place to come in tune with themselves. And now today, we have someone that manages the cellar of the cottage and has it open frequently. And right down the street from the cottage is the schoolhouse where the girls went. And today that is now a healing opportunity. Reverend Janet Nahovic has redone the schoolhouse. So we have both things going in Hydesville and wonder what we can do next. What else? Well, it also is a good reminder to all of us that if we walk with the Spirit, we'll also hear the Spirit.
Well, you speak about the peddler. Can you tell us about your research in regards to the name of the peddler?
Okay, that's interesting because many years back, I sat in the cellar where the head of the peddler would have been. I got to know John Drummond quite well, and when they had moved the house to Hydesville, he felt very badly, so he built a house on top of the foundation exactly to the measurements of the original house. And in it was the double wall, where the double wall had fallen down. You could see where the grave was, where the peddler's bones had laid. And so I sat there and I asked him a question that always has been on my mind. Was his real name Charles B. Rosner? And if it was, to tell me so, and if it wasn't, to give me his real name. Well, I didn't get anything for a while. And lots of times I felt like I was being teased into having communication. But yet I didn't get answers from him. And I kept thinking, what could his name be? And you know, I must say this, there was 6 of our pioneers who did give names out that they said they got during seances. And I thought, well, I know they're wrong, but I wish they were right. But I just want to get this corrected once and for all, so the man can get due respect of having his right name. And so a little more time had passed on, and I have a 2-drawer file cabinet, just a small cabinet, that I have everything in it belonging to my favorite pioneer. And as I pulled out the top drawer, I don't know if I was over-energized or what, but anyway, the drawer fell on the floor, papers went everywhere. And as I looked at the mess, I said, well, something good's got to come out of this. And I noticed some old-fashioned handwriting, and the paper was brown. It was just sticking out maybe an inch. And I pulled it out, and it was 2 pages. Actually, it was 3, back and front, counting the back and front. And as I looked at it, it was a letter written in 1898 to the Spragues, and they were part of our ancient pioneers. And the young man that wrote it was the grandson, as I mentioned, and he said he was so sorry, apologizing for not having answered their letter sooner, but he would tell them now what he knew. And he said there were 5 men in Hydesville, and I have all this written out that I'm going to see that it gets out to someone who everyone can have the information. But these 5 men wanted to do something for the peddler. And they felt the best thing they could do was give him a decent memorial service and a memorial. So they said a few words of kindness about him. And then they unveiled the tombstone. They had a carver fixed for them, and on it it said, in memory of the peddler, Charles B. Kresmer. And then they had Throat Slit by John, the name escapes me at the moment, but anyway, because of this incident, all of this took place. And there was a cute little ditty that they wrote down the bottom, poetic, and it talked about not stepping on the grave because the peddler would get them. But it's a very, very nice stone, and it's a nice memorial to him. Where it went and where it is today, nobody knows.
Well, we'd love to get a copy of that letter and get it published so that's never lost in a drawer again. So my question for you is, if you had to pick a nickname for yourself, Reverend Marilyn Autry, also known as, what would it be?
That's what it is. It's Mercy who was given that name because she was a brainstormer. She did a lot of research, and in fact, when the owner of the Progressive Thinker passed away, she bought the Progressive Thinker, and she did publish the newspaper for some, 20 years. And at a convention, I believe it was in 2015 or 16, somebody brought up that I should be given the name of the same title that Mercy had in her time. I should be given it for the 20th century it was. Okay, I know what it is. It's the Walking Encyclopedia of Spiritualism. It would be one that was given to me, the Walking Encyclopedia of Modern Spiritualism. And the reason I continue to keep that term in the forefront is because that's what I feel like. I feel like there's so much in my head that I need to sit down and start putting things on CDs or Zoom or something, because Reverend suggested that I start emptying my brain onto discs. Not that I'm leaving anytime soon, but just so all the stuff gets put down.
So do you have any favorite spiritual experience that you'd like to tell us about?
You know, my mom understood me because I was always coming in with something from spirit, but I couldn't do it in front of my father because he was a Baptist minister and he objected. So she finally convinced him when I was 12 years old to allow me to go off to different churches and to different religions and find my own truth. He said, okay. Later on, he patted me on the back and said he knew that I wanted to do something else, so it was okay. So I started searching, and I went from Methodist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Baptist, Church of God. I went to them all. As I did that, I thought, I've got to find where I belong. And I never did find where I belong until I was taken to Cassadaga and I found spiritualism. And once I went to Cassadaga and saw what I felt inside, I knew that I had come to the right place. And that's when I heard that message from May Graves, and she was so accurate with her mediumship. I knew that that was the path I was to take. And so I began my endeavor. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I have my certification as a medium and credentialed as a national spiritualist teacher and an ordained minister. And I don't regret a moment of it. I love helping people.
How does spirit communication proven through mediumship enhance your life?
I used mediumship in more ways than one. And I learned that it was, if you had a medium that was really able to communicate, the messages were loud and clear. And I knew that everything has more than one advantage to it. When I look at spiritualism and how it enhanced my life, is I cannot imagine what my life would have been without it. I've learned that I can depend on spirit, but not to misuse them by expecting answers for everything. I had to do my part, and they would do their part. I feel that it's important to utilize mediumship for the well-being of humanity. I am not of the choosing to sit and give messages livelihood, because I feel my place is to teach. And I feel I was taught so much by people like May Graves and the people of that era. You know, I feel so honored that I really feel like I got with the last of the Mohegans. Because, you know, if you listen to the sermons that were given in the 60s and 70s, church services were much different than they are today. And so I feel like if I had not had the opportunity of being with spiritualism, I would never have met those people. And I know each one of them in some way contributed to my well-being and my growth. They saw that I was so interested. They gave me a lot of tidbits that were just priceless to me. And to this day, I can say that I don't know where I'd be if it hadn't been for spiritualism. It's just a wonderful world, here and hereafter.
So what do you think there are some things that others can do to enhance spiritualism today?
I think, first of all, they need to understand, and teachers need to teach, that they must be dedicated to the cause. If they're just coming in it to get a message, they're missing the boat. And the boat's going out to sea, and it's going out fast. Spiritualism has turned many people around the world into a better life. But also because I feel we don't do enough with education, there is not the depth of understanding in spiritualism that the folks before us had. And I think it's very necessary that we bring forth the truths of spiritualism and how spiritualism can lead them into a better path, a better pathway. And once they're in spiritualism, they'll learn the natural laws and they will learn to live with the natural laws. So these are things that I feel very strongly need to be taught today. I think there's more emphasis put on the science of spiritualism, which is mediumship, than there is on the philosophy. And the philosophy is a way of life. And if they had that way of life in front of them, there'd be a lot less stumbling and there'd be a lot more love in the world.
Well, in 2021, we're celebrating 173 years of modern spiritualism. Where do you see spiritualism in the future, say in another 173 years from now?
Unless it started today in changing the way of our being. You know, part of it is spiritualists have always sort of kept to themselves. And I can understand it from the old days where there was a lot of people looking down at it. But today, we need to bring it forth in a way that we can be in unity with others and not, I feel like so much has been pressured on the communities of speaking with spirit rather than living with spirit, that we have failed to meet the mark. And if we're going to be the light of the world, as spiritualism was deemed to be, in 173 years, we have had to make a lot of changes. And we need to start with dedication, education, and living the truth. And if we don't, it may be long gone, because even today, you know, there are many other groups that are doing messages and are teaching spirit and about spirit life, but they have different terminology for their names, for their organizational names. And so while there are a lot more spiritualists out there than are counted, is because they're in these other places. We need to draw a unity and bring things back to a focal point where there's an understanding that we are living in a spiritual world now, and we will continue in another spiritual world later. But there's a difference in our tasks in both worlds. And right now, it's our job to lay the groundwork. So 173 years from now, people are looking back into history to learn about the truths of the beginning.
Wow, that was wonderful hearing. We really could listen to Marilyn all day because she is the walking encyclopedia. She knows, whenever I don't know anything, I'll give her a call or email her and say, what was the exact age of the Fox sisters, March 31st, 1848? Because she has done the research to really find, you know, accurate information, going through archives and, you know, every source imaginable. She always says you've got to find at least 3 different places that it's quoted. You can't just go with one place to find your information. So she has just been so invaluable to spiritualism with everything that she has written, the coursework, her contribution to the writing of, you know, the manual, the MPI, just so many different things. So thank you, Marilyn, for all of your hard work. We really love and appreciate you. So in about 15 minutes, we are going to go to our closing ceremony. But before we do, I thought, I don't know if Joanne has some totals for us, but she could give us maybe a total of what we've raised for the endowment fund and what we've raised for the Fox Cottage Preservation Fund, just to let us know where we are and how far we have to go to get to our goals. Are you available, Joanne?
Yeah, from my tallies so far, and again, there's still, PayPal tallies to add up. So, don't say, my God, my money's not here. We will get to it. $2,168 just for the preservation today via PayPal. That doesn't include the seance that everybody's still just coming out of. And that doesn't include the gallery readings that occurred over the month. We've raised for the endowment, and again, this is dollar for dollar matched, $2,313. And then we have some other funds that people put money in. Our general fund right now is at $135. Our SBS, or our benevolent fund, received $10. Our archives fund has received $10. And our Spotlight, which is our children's little magazine, that has also received $10. So those are my tallies now, but my phone is still beeping and going off. So just keep the PayPal running.
Yes, it's like the pledge drop. Make Joanne's phone go ding. Every time someone donates, her phone goes ding. So we want it to go ding, 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 ding. That's our goal. So we have a little bit of ways to go before we get to our goal, but we know we're going to do it. I imagine there are people that haven't had a chance to donate yet that are thinking, oh, somebody else will donate, but you know what? It's got to be you, because we need every person to do whatever they can. Every small amount helps. It really does make a difference, and it does add up. And, then we get that snowball effect where, we're just rolling. So I know in these things, Spirit works and instructs. So if you are feeling the nudge to donate, or if you think, gee, as soon as I get my tax return, I'm going to earmark some of that money or all of that money for spiritualism. I'm going to, buy 500 pavers and just pave the whole walkway system, the new highway of spiritualism in the park. Or I want to dedicate a bench. That's a $2,500 donation to have a bench with an inscription. So, there's a lot of ways to give. And the biggest thing is all of you are here. We really appreciate having you here. This has been this big birthday party for spiritualism that we have planned for 3 months. And it wouldn't have been a party without you guys being here. So, and Joanne and Cozy and just so many people that have just been working tirelessly, and Bonnie and just everybody. So I'm delighted everyone's here. I know you might be tired. You might be tired. Is anyone tired? Anyone? Because we've been here 11 hours. But so we thought we would reward all of you people for hanging in with a 10-minute break, because we are going to go to our closing ceremony in 15 minutes. And that'll give everyone a chance to, splash some water on your face and freshen up for our closing ceremony, which I guarantee is going to be very special. So you'll want to have seen our entire 12 hours. So I'm going to unless Joanne, do you have any other updates before we go to break? Oops.
I do not have any other updates. It's dinging, but okay. I haven't totaled them yet.
All right, good. Well, let's keep it dinging. And I especially love the idea of being able to dedicate a paver to somebody, or your church, or a loved one, even, your spouse, your significant other. So consider that as well. So many ways to give, and we really appreciate you. So we're going to have this 10 minutes, a whole 10 minutes. We've been taking 5 all day, a whole 10-minute comfort break. And then we'll be back, and we'll join everybody coming back from the seance for our closing ceremony. So we'll see you back in about 10 minutes, everyone.